So, first came the conversations about the taproom experience being about more than just great beer. Then came arguably the conversations, the controversial discussions on how to make it more family friendly. And now we're here to chat about how arcade games, pinball, and duckpin bowling can benefit your taproom. But before we press play, let's meet our panelists. And Tyler, because you are to the right of me, you get to go first.
Perfect. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Tyler Carson with Stern Pinball. I'm the director of new channel development. So the biggest part of my job is going and finding, typically with what's been going well, is breweries. Breweries with space that are looking to upgrade their entertainment experience for their customers.
Tyler, thanks for being here. Excited to have your insight on today's
You betcha.
conversation.
Excited to be here.
Jonathan, your turn.
Hi, thank you, Andrew. So I'm Jonathan Kacmarcik. I'm with Southland Entertainment. We are an amusement operator that operates primarily in the Southeast, and we have a presence in the Midwest as well. So we basically offer any kind of arcade games free of charge to locations.
Free of charge. Sounds like a win. No, Jason, your turn.
Jason Brewer, Wandering Monsters Brewing Company out of Cincinnati, Ohio. We are a brewery with a barbecue restaurant and also have 6 duckpin bowling lanes on site.
And I know I've told you before, but I absolutely love your logo. Was that something
Thank
you
you.
created, or how did you come up with the image?
Yeah, it was something that graphic design team and I came together with, but I wanted something that had the W and the M in the logo as well. So the horns kind of make the W and the beard down here makes the M. So it kind of all came together based on that idea.
Why didn't you put like duck pins as the horns?
That's a great question. Where were you like 2 years ago?
Well, thanks for being here, Jason. This is going to be a fun one. And Chris,
Absolutely.
appreciate you joining as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about OneWell.
Yeah, so my name's Chris O'Neill, and I own and operate One Well Brewing in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So we've been open for 9 years, and in the very beginning, we started with 2 arcade machines and 1 pinball, and now we operate 12,000 square feet of total restaurant space, with 5,000 of that being arcade. And now we have 54 pinball machines, 3 pool tables, 10 dartboards, and about 30 arcade machines that we now operate. So,
Did
quite
you
a bit.
ever think your operation would turn into that heavy on the entertainment side?
You know, initially we started with 4,000 square feet. And so, no, I had no imagination that we would get to being as big of an arcade as we are now. But it's interesting because, Jonathan mentioned that he is, I guess terminology wise, he's an operator supplying games. And so initially our business worked with a company like Jonathan's to get games on site at no cost to us with a revenue split. And from there, we saw the type of revenue that we were actually losing by splitting with an operator, and decided that it would make a ton of sense for us to get in the business, if you will, of having our own arcades and pinball, which gave us the opportunity and the flexibility of being able to make our own decisions. So, yes.
No, awesome. Well, I'm excited to learn more from all of you today. And Jonathan, you and I had some time together at the recent North Carolina Brewers Conference, and I think I had a couple drinks in me when we first started chatting. But one thing I really enjoyed about our conversation was some of the industry lingo you use to talk about arcade games and just, the entertainment side of what you offer for breweries. I'd love for you to share a few terms of what people need to know when we're talking about arcade games and all that you offer. That way it makes sense.
Sure, happy to do that. For us, we've been in the amusement space for 40 years. And our model is, we go in, we look at the location, we look at the demographic coming through the door, and then we'd like to get the, as-built plans or the plans for the building, and we do a full game layout design. and we actually come back to the location and we'll show you how you can kind of maximize space in your location. And then depending upon the demographic coming through the door, then we can tailor the games and the leagues kind of accordingly. I think another strong component is, having a good card reader system, whether that's a game card system or a credit card reader on the game, which is a big differentiator. And then also the league and tournament play. So I think it was Chris kind of alluded to, darts. I don't know if he's, operating, like a remote dart league where locations can compete against each other, and that's driving traffic on offbeat nights. But we can basically do a full gamut. I love hearing duckpin bowling and pinball because we work in conjunction with locations that have bowling, or they have laser tag, or they have the outdoor games. So arcade games is just a great complement to things like duckpin bowling.
Jonathan, do you actually know a brewery that has laser tag?
I don't, but I'd love to talk one into it.
I love it. No, when we were on that bus, you threw out some of the terms that kind of stuck with me. I have a 4-year-old, so I'm playing arcade games and pinball machines and, going bowling all the time. You threw out the terms cranes and pushers. What are cranes and pushers?
Yeah. So we operate a lot of family entertainment centers. So cranes are a great game where a player can walk in and they can automatically see something that they want and they can try to win it. So a crane is essentially a skill game, and we can fill those games with different kinds of plush items, whether they're teddy bears or they're branded rubber ducks for Jeep owners or whatever. If you can dream it up, we can probably put it in there and figure out how to do that. So those games, merchandisers are great games. So similar concept where you can put adult plush items like AirPods.
Jonathan, you there? I think we might have lost you for a sec. I think we've lost Jonathan for a sec. But Tyler, I'd love to kind of shift to you for a sec. Looking at pinball, why does Stern look at pinball and breweries as going hand in hand?
So really, it all kind of started a few years ago. There was obviously a few examples of them that already existed. My background is actually in the beer and liquor industry. And especially the idea really came together specifically in the Illinois area. And I know many states are very similar, but every town, every village, every city was joining that craft beer boom, and every town had one. And everywhere you went, they all had the same stuff. And it was, Chutes and Ladders, Monopoly, board games and stuff like that were sitting on a little, a stand in the front. And there wasn't really anything that kind of kept people staying any longer. So we kind of developed this plan of going and meeting with breweries, trying to facilitate upgrading their customer entertainment experience. And obviously the best part is we get to work hand in hand with these breweries and try to make them retain their customer base for maybe a couple extra beers, maybe some food and beverage, while also playing some pinball, working with them to kind of keep their locations on longer instead of bouncing to the next.
And you have a pinball brewery map on your website.
There's a to be honest with you, when I joined it, someone told me about it. We don't own it. Somebody else actually runs that site, but I will help upload the locations on there. So anybody in a certain area can type in where they're from, and you can pull up exactly what breweries will have what pinball machines and where.
Awesome. Now, Jason, you've got duckpin bowling, and I love duckpin bowling. I did it with my mom as a kid growing up. Spent a lot of time at a place called Bowlerama. So I'd love to kind of hear how you decided to put a bowling alley in your brewery. Was it something you initially planned to do, or why did you get to that need?
No, it was, when I left the last brewery I was at, 2022, I was going to be all fruited sours, pastry stouts, hazy IPAs, and, just find a location and just make those beers and people will come. Well, kind of saw how the market shifted and that needing an attraction and an attractive location to be successful. So I was working with another place about opening a brewery, and they had these Duckpin bowling lanes there. And they told me how much they were, and they took up a bunch of space. And I thought that was the dumbest use of space and the dumbest use of capital you could ever possibly have. And then within 1 month, I've never been proven so wrong so quickly by how great they are and the type of the people they bring in. They're bringing in families in large groups. We have an event space here that gives the parties just something to do other than drink. They can do Duckpin bowling as a team raising or team building experience. So it kind of stumbled upon it by accident, but after seeing it and especially after experience it, I don't want to open up another space without having something similar to this on board.
Now, at your space, Jason, is the Duckpin area separate from the main tap room, or can you see it as I'm having a pint, in your bar and main area?
You can actually see the Duckpin area better than you can see the brewery. Unfortunately, just with how the space is laid out, it's kind of front right there, and you can certainly hear it. So it's a big part of who we are.
So talk to me a little bit more about your demographic. Then, Chris, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts following up this. But like Jason, looking at it, you said you went into it thinking you'd brew a bunch of like hazy IPAs and pastry stouts. So now do you still brew those beers at all?
Oh yeah, and they sell like 7th and 8th after a lager, light lager, blonde ale, and all the other fun stuff. But it's fine. Those beers are great too. And really it changed when I had a kid and, wanting to find a place that was family friendly and a place that I'd want to bring my family. It kind of shifted when that happened as well. And so the area of town that we're in, it's a suburb, kind of wealthier suburb. And there's lots of stuff for parents to do, and there's lots of stuff for kids to do, but there's not a whole lot of things for them to do together. And so we kind of wanted to find that place where they could come and do something together instead of, just having something for mom and dad to do like kids has on their iPad.
Are you hosting kids' birthday parties yet?
Yeah, we do. We have a private event space, so it's a perfect spot to just kind of tuck away those sort of things, so we don't really bother the casual guests too much.
So how would you describe the demographic that's coming to Wandering Monsters? If you had to sum it up in words.
It's 35 to 45 with kids, families with kids. That's our bread and butter, and that's what we're seeing. Very rarely does someone walk through the door without a kid. As I'm thinking about who comes in. So
awesome. Now, Chris, I'd love to learn a little bit more about One Well. Who's coming to One Well and how has it changed over the years?
Yeah, so in the beginning, had this giant conversation with myself and my then business partner was, I could tell you who I would be most comfortable being my general customer. Well, that's the person with $1 million, that wants to freely spend it, big tippers, all of that. But, we had this conversation and we said, well, we're not really sure who our customer is going to be, and we need to make sure that we tailor our business to the people that are walking in the door, right? And so as we started in business, we started noticing that a lot of our customers were, not that we didn't have older customers, but a lot of our customers were those younger 20s, 30s, and those are the people that are going to start to prioritize family, finishing up college, moving on to a professional career. And then from there, adding that family component. So as we saw our business grow, we also saw our customers having kids, or customers that maybe started off not bringing their kids and then felt more comfortable. And so our neighborhood, we are a neighborhood pub. Our neighborhood started to really kind of shift from that, older retirement neighborhood to a, opportunity of starting families and stuff like that. So when we saw a couple of our customers bring their baby Bjorn or whatever it's called, I'm not a kid having guy, but bringing their baby with them on a front-loaded backpack and sitting at the bar while enjoying a beer, we said, well, if this is what our customer is, what can we do to, continue to make that a bigger part? Now, I will preface this with, I did have interest in arcade when we first started the brewery. I also had a large board game collection. So we had never planned to use TVs. Where we're at here in Kalamazoo, there's not one bar besides our bar that, well, I guess there's a couple of more fine dining places, but any place that you would consider a bar in Kalamazoo has at least 5 TVs, and my plan was to do something different. So, so having the foresight of watching the customers that we have coming in the door, really kind of made the family thing make sense. But also, initially that for us was board games, a free foosball machine, and a pool table that took up way too much space. So yes, things have changed quite dramatically. But from us, we started with 1 pinball machine, 2 arcade machines, and then quickly shifted to, we grew the pinball section way faster than we grew the arcade section. And then it was kind of alluded to earlier from Tyler, I believe, was leagues, that kind of stuff started popping off. So I guess, shorter answer is, we're watching our customers. We were watching who was coming in, and we figured that, as much as we wanted to cater just to the person with $1 million that tipped fat, we had to cater our business to the people that were walking in the door. And those were people looking for something to do. And that for me is a big thing when I go to a bar. Is sitting there and watching TV is something that everybody can do at their house, and beers are much cheaper sitting at your house. So I wanted to provide an experience, and that experience included board games, it included arcades, and it included pinballs.
Chris, there's a reason we get along. I love how many times you've used the word experience and how much you're listening to your customers. I mean, you've grown up literally with your customers by listening to them and providing them with what they need to make the best possible experience.
Well, yeah, and I've listened to enough of your stuff that, the experience part really vibes with me and jives, and I think that is what a lot of places are lacking. And I mean, beer is only one part of it. As much as I would like to think that beer is even the number one thing, I think our beer is phenomenal. But I think that a lot of people come out looking for more than just a beer, so it'd be stupid not to look into that.
Definitely. So for everybody here today, I'd love to kind of hear some of the benefits that you see your business can see from adding things like skee ball, pinball, arcade games. What are some of the benefits that these breweries and businesses are seeing? Tyler, do you want to tee us off with that one? What do you see with some of the brands you're interacting with?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously what we do is we kind of take that approach, and we know a lot of breweries don't necessarily have, an overwhelming amount of space, but anywhere we can get from 4 to 8 pinball machines, then we can work with those locations on setting up leagues and tournaments, and then working with those locations to now maybe on your slower night, if you're open on a Monday night or a Tuesday night, we're working on getting people to consistently show up at your location at minimum on a monthly basis. If you had a slow moving Monday night, and you really weren't seeing the need to even stay open at that point, we wanted to give them a reason to stay open, to keep the doors open. And that's why we got a few examples now where, we had some breweries that started with less than 10 people that have grown to 30, 40 people tournament nights on a Monday night, and while they're there, they're spending money on the beer, they're spending money on the food, they're spending money on the business. And that's exactly what we wanted to do.
I would love to hear a case study someday about, people playing pinball, drink twice as much and hang out 3 times as long.
I can prove it. I don't have my own case study on it.
Well, you're probably talking about you just going to a brewery and hanging out for a few hours.
Exactly.
Jason,
I think in today's day and market, there's a ton of breweries out there, and I'm not going to be the guy that says there's a saturation, because there's not. But, people are looking at 3 or 4 different options on where to go for a brewery. So giving them something, giving yourself something different is going to give you that edge over the guy down the street in order to get them to come in. Even if it's pinball, maybe their people are super into pinball, and they'll go to certain places just to play a certain machine. And, people will come here just to bowl. If they just want to bowl and not drink anything, that's fine. We're still making money on that customer walking through the door. And then we also go through a similar company as Jonathan's, where we have some crane machines for kids. I mean, kids are, coming with their parents, so we kind of gears the crane machines to them. But, we have some stuff, animals. We have a candy crane machine we just put in, and then we run out of singles at the bar because people keep coming and asking for change.
Jason, can I ask you one quick question? I think Jonathan might have insight on these. I've always called them claw machines. Should I be calling them claw machines?
No, I would have said claw machine if Jonathan didn't say crane machine. It's got a big claw on the end of it. Of course, it's a claw machine. But yeah, I mean, it's just as simple as, if you have an empty space, if you could make an extra $200 a month on a 4x4 space in your tap room, would you? I mean, I don't know if anyone would say no to that.
So that's what you're seeing. I mean, you've got these machines.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our Duckpin lanes take up a lot of space, but on the flip side of that, we have 3 4x4 machines that make each $200 a month on each one of them. We have 2 claw machines and we have Big Buck Hunt, which Big Buck Hunt's basically just for me. But the rest of them, the claw machines do very, very well for us, and I can have a hard time believing they don't do well at other breweries too.
So talk to me a little bit more about the Duckpin side. So when I first announced we were doing this panel, you were one of the first to comment. I'm going to quote you for a sec. You said Duckpin bowling. It's been a revelation to our business, and I'm happy to talk about it. So we're here talking about it today. But what's been some of the impact, mainly on the financial side of what you've seen from having Duckpin bowling?
Yeah, it's been very, very good to us. If I could double the amount of lanes that we had, I would. We had a 25-person wait on Saturday for Duckpin. It was wild. And it's $6 a person a game, and we have it's anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 or more a month of people wanting to come in and play Duckpin bowling. And our loan at this, I mean, that's not cheap, right? The whole setup was about $225,000, but the payoff is going to be close to 2 years now, and then it's just pure profit, which is awesome. And right now, knock on wood, we went with Brunswick, who is the one of the premier names in bowling in general, and they've been pretty low maintenance, and if we've had a problem, they've been able to jump on and help us out with it. So it's been pretty steady revenue stream, pretty great customer stream, and then people that bowl drink and they eat and they bring their friends. So it's just been very it's been very good to us, and probably the best business decision I've made in starting up the business.
It's a very unique one. What about staffing wise and training wise, Jason? I mean, I imagine, every time I've gone to a bowling alley, there's unique things that happen there. There's people renting me shoes, there's people checking the lanes. How does that play out in Winery Monsters?
There's no shoes. It's just a short little run for the lane, so you don't need any shoes. All the pins are on strings, so you don't need somebody climbing up and redoing all the pins. We just need one person who also doubles as our host. They're checking people in for the lanes, and we have our system that texts or calls people to let them know their lanes are ready. So it's pretty easily. It can pretty much run with one person on a Friday or Saturday night, and that's there they are. So we're running. It's making us $1,500 to $2,000 on a Friday or Saturday night run by one person. That's also doubling as a greeter. The economics of it are pretty hard to argue with. It's just the startup capital. It was a non-negotiable for me when I was opening the brewery to have these here. So it was always built in the budget. But I can understand if you have a brewery, adding those would be it's like adding a second brewery to your cost. But it's gonna, at the end of the day, it's great for us.
No, great insight. Thanks for sharing. No, Jonathan, Chris, talk to me about some of the benefits from having arcade games in a tap room. I'd love to hear, Chris, what you're experiencing firsthand, and Jonathan, the financial benefits you see, and how long are people hanging out at other breweries that you interact with.
So for me, are we just talking about games in general or specifically?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about games in general, the benefits you see by adding entertainment options, Chris.
So I think, Tyler kind of mentioned this, and I don't know if you can see in my background here, but this is kind of our game room. We have 54 pinballs. We went from being, I think our first event that we held was a charity tournament, a charity pinball tournament that had 5 people in it. And we went from that to today. We have 85 people in our pinball league, and we are the biggest pinball league in Michigan. So, I mean, for me, I enjoy playing pinball, so I play in the league. I mean, I have such a great time, and Kalamazoo's a great town, but I felt like we had the opportunity to add some of these cool things that didn't exist, or maybe only exist in bigger cities. And so, Grand Rapids is about an hour north of us, and they had a pinball league. They still do have a pinball league, but our pinball league has become 3 times the size of what they are. So, for me, adding this stuff, and I think I mentioned it earlier, we don't have a single TV, and so for me, it was that transition of saying, what do we do to differentiate ourselves and be a little bit different? And I think I heard Jason say the same thing as well, is there's more than one brewery in Kalamazoo. I mean, there's famously a large brewery called Bell's here, but their shtick is, they have an awesome events room for concerts. I love going to concerts too, and I love going there. I didn't want to do a concert venue and try to compete with somebody who's already killing it in the concert space. So why would I move to that? So, my story is a little bit different than Jason's, because we built into what we had. We use the term bootstrap brewing. I mean, we started off with nothing and built up our spot. We worked with somebody like Jonathan here as an operator to get things rolling. And as the business took off, it's a very financially beneficial situation. I mean, I heard $200 a week. I make probably $400 a week on a duck claw game in here. And that's one of the games. Like,
Whoa.
not all of them are as beneficial as this is. Now, I will say that I also dedicate probably a little bit over 5,000 square feet in my space to all of these games. So kind of like Jason was talking about with his Duckpin bowling. I mean, it does take up space, which means that you're spending money on that space. I mean, so renting the space does have to make sense, but the type of revenue return, is there. Now, I will say that if people listening to this think you can buy one pinball or one arcade machine, put it in your place and make $1 million, that's not going to happen. Stick to the claw game. One claw game will make you money, guaranteed. But we have built a culture here of pinball. We have built, like I said, I mean, a league of 80 people didn't happen overnight. We started with 5 people that were interested in pinball, people that most of them had a pinball machine at their house, or there was a couple bars in town that had 1, maybe 2 pinballs. And these people enjoyed that. And as we were able to scale up our business, I connected in many ways with these people, not only as friends. A lot of the people in the pinball league I consider my friend and have beers outside of at One Well with them, and have traveled to pinball events and all kinds of things with these people. But we built this community, and then I continue to talk to people when they come in and seem like they at least have any interest in pinball. I say, hey, we have a league for this. And, the first thing I hear back is, well, we're not good enough for a league. Well, we all started off not good enough for a league. We kept practicing and we got better, and so it did start, it didn't start with 80 people, and it took us a long time to get to that point. But by cultivating that community, by looking at our business model and saying, hey, man, we are going to have an experience for people. We are going to have stuff for them to do, and not only that, but, and Taylor probably knows this too, and maybe Jason could comment on this too, but you've got to maintain your product. You need to maintain the pinballs. You got to maintain the arcades, because you're not going to grow a business by having a bunch of broke down pieces of garbage in the corner, just trying to collect your quarters. And, you know, hey man, if you can play a game while collecting the quarters, great. But, you know, there is a negative side to things too, that I do feel like I go to a lot of places that don't put any maintenance into the games, and I've spent $1.75, whatever it costs to play that game. It plays like crap, and then my experience is now negative. I don't walk away from it thinking, man, I'm glad Jason's brewery had a pinball machine. I'm like, man, Jason's fucking pinball machine didn't flip both flippers. I couldn't do that, you know, it's dirty, all of that. And just like the duckpin lanes, I mean, you can't throw, you know, a nasty ball down the lane. You got to clean it. You know, you got to make sure your lane's waxed. I don't know much about duck pinball like Jason, but yeah, I mean, you got to maintain that stuff, and you got to make sure, so that becomes part of your business model. It's not just to set it in the corner and make $200.
It's quality control.
It's a quality control. We wouldn't sell shit beer, so why would we sell shit pinball, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jonathan, before we dive a little bit more into like maintenance, which I definitely want to talk more about, Chris and Jason and Tyler, Jonathan, I'd love to kind of hear some of the benefits you're seeing that brewers get from having arcade games in their facilities.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, I covered a lot of things, but I think I got cut off earlier. The biggest thing is, one of the biggest things is, and we're working with a location right now. They were kind of like a first mover in their area, and now things have exploded, and they're like, what can we do different to draw people in? So they've kind of want to rebrand themselves as like an arcade barcade brewery. Okay. So, I would say, the benefits are with games, obviously it's a revenue source for you. It's a great revenue source. I love hearing like what Chris had to say. I mean, he knows his business. He's helping push pinball because it's a relationship. Like an operator with a location is a relationship. We want to educate you on how the games work, but we're really solely relying on you guys to help push that play and kind of create that positive vibe and energy in the location to keep kind of build that community. I'd say, keep people on location, driving traffic on the offbeat nights. We do everything from, skee ball to, pinball to darts to pool. All those kind of like league and tournament games help drive traffic into locations. You guys touched on revenue earlier, and we always kind of like cringe when we kind of hear that, because if you have the opportunity to make six figures, or you're not going to do well at all. So it's really working with that operator, learning how the games work, communicating. Biggest thing for us is all of our games are on card reader systems, whether it's credit card or an actual game card system. And we actually track the play and we track the revenue on those games. So if something isn't working, we communicate with the location and we say, hey, doesn't look like, such and such game is really getting a lot of play. What's going on? That's kind of abnormal. Or say, hey, basketball's doing really, really well in your location. Have you thought about putting another one in? And we take this out. So I think that constant oversight and communication with the location is extremely important, because you don't really know what your demographics going to gravitate towards until you actually set the location with the games and get an idea of what people are gravitating towards.
Jonathan, how many machines do you see most successful partners have?
That's another great question. A lot of people think more games equals more money, and that's not always the case. I mean, we have some locations that have 8 pieces of equipment, and because they're running the leagues and tournaments and they're kind of building that community, like what Chris was talking about, they do better than some locations that have 15 or 20 pieces of equipment. It really depends on the location owner helping promote play, and the TO helping, that's the operator, putting the helping educate and putting the right equipment out in the field.
No, a really good insight there. And Jason and Chris, I imagine, in your brewery marketing, you're not just posting pictures of, really crisp, clean, or maybe even super hazy beers, Jason. What does your marketing look like, and how are you featuring this entertainment that you've added to your businesses?
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
So, I mean, for us, we used to kind of do a regular Wednesday post. I mean, our dart leagues on Tuesday nights, our pinball leagues on Wednesday nights. So, we utilize those type of posts. I mean, we want to make sure that people understand, like, as much as we are an arcade, that we are a brewery and a restaurant first. So we do try to get some balance there. But as far as our marketing goes, it gives us a good opportunity. I'll kind of poke Tyler a little bit because I was actually talking with your cohort, Michael, about, being brewery of the month. So, when are we going to get there, bro?
I'll see what I can do. I'll pull some strings for you.
I would love that, man. So,
absolutely,
we can lean on Stern Pinball. We do buy all their new games and have a huge selection of Stern Pinballs in here. But there's other avenues as well. So Stern promoting the brewery. We have a few Facebook groups locally, like Michigan Pinball Players and different things that we're able to kind of market into that. I mean, not every pinball player is a beer drinker. I mean, you kind of mentioned that, Andrew, is looking at, like, what's the case study there. But I can tell you that I know of the 80 people that are in the league, I probably personally know 65 of those 80. And there's probably maybe 5 people in the league that don't drink, and a few of them are children. And, I mean, so we do have some people that come in, like Jason had said, maybe just to bowl or just to play pinball. But, the majority of the people that we have are purchasing a minimum of beer, if not stopping in before league, a half hour before to get food and all of that stuff too. So we utilize the league and marketing to let people know that we have stuff going on. We utilize the marketing to let people know about Dart League, that kind of stuff. And then we have I will say that we have customers that are not beer drinkers, that are, liquor first drinkers, that now drink beer because they kept coming to us for the things that we were offering in Kalamazoo that weren't offered here. And we found new customers. Now, yeah, do they drink beer when they go to the bar that has liquor? Probably not. They probably drink a whiskey and Coke if that's what they want. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely picked up customers on that. And then again, I mean, it's like, whether it's Dart or, we do market, hey man, date night's a great place to come. You can get a beer, get some food, and then transition to the whole rest of your night versus having to feel like, well, we're going to go one place for dinner, then we're going to go another place for drinks, and then we might go to another place for entertainment, whatever that may be. We're a one-stop shop for that. And so for us and our location, we're easily, conveniently off the highway, 94, 4213 Portage Street. But, we don't have a lot of businesses around us for that synergy. I mean, I would say that, hey man, if we were a dinner place and then there was a pinball place next door, there would be good synergy there, but none of that existed. And Kalamazoo really didn't have any of that in general. So we created that. We brought that to Kalamazoo. No, we're not the first barcade. We're not the first people that thought playing video games and drinking beer was fun. But I'm telling you, I started doing that a long time ago. I'm almost 40, and I think I maybe had my first beers and video games probably more than 20 years ago, if you know what I mean. So
I hadn't planned on it, but
Well
I think
said.
I need to take my 4-year-old, do exactly what we're talking about right now. Have a beer and, play some arcade games later today.
But I mean, if you look at it, there's plenty of bowling alleys out there that are doing exactly that. Most bowling alleys have a liquor license and you can buy a beer. Now, whether you bowl or you go in their arcade or play laser tag or whatever, I mean, that is that opportunity. But, I don't think, at least the bowling alleys that are around here don't really give you that feel that it's a restaurant. It's more of a shit show, if you will. So we kind of rein in that chaos a little bit and then, offer that opportunity. And, you know, even though we're open to families and want to bring that in, I mean, we definitely let people know and build the space out in a way that it is an adult space that allows families to come and have a good time.
No, I love all that. You know, Jason, how about you? You know, how are you marketing the brewery? Talk to me a little about what's working.
I would say we probably talk about Duckpin out of the week 1 or 2 days a week. Usually every Monday, because Monday is our league night, and we don't want people to come in and be disappointed that they can't bowl. So we try to talk about the leagues every chance that we can on Mondays. And then, you know, as Chris was trying to say earlier too, or didn't try, he did. But, you know, we are a brewery and restaurant first. So we try to lead with that, and then kind of add the sprinkle and the Duckpin throughout the week as we go. So it's not a primary focus for our day-to-day stuff. It is a primary focus when it comes to events, because it's you know, someone's looking for an event, they're probably checking out 3 or 4 different spots. And it's a big differentiator from us. And if you're looking anywhere around us, it's a huge differentiator for us. So we always lead with that for events. But from a day-to-day perspective, it's probably third after the brewery and the restaurant.
Awesome. Thank you. So Tyler, what do you see as, say, best practices for when you're working with breweries about how they're promoting pinball as part of their experience?
A few of the best practices is, we obviously love to see the posts, and I know Chris is always very good at it as well. One of the main things too, it's very simple for the brewery to do, is when you get a new beer and it comes out with it, have the pinball machines be as a backdrop. And we've got a good collection of those, and it's funny because we've talked to a few people in the past where they would post it, and then people didn't realize they even had pinball machines in there. And then this post that was supposed to be about this beer turned into a few people trickling in, like, "Oh, I didn't know you had, you know, pinball machines in there." But it draws attention to it. It's obviously both ways. So it draws attention to the beer that the brewery's offering, as well as the entertainment factor of what they can do while they're drinking.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, Jonathan, I'd love to change it up with you for a moment and talk a little bit about maintenance, because I know, you know, I've had frustrating experiences going to an arcade before and it taking my money, the game's not working. What do you recommend when you're working with a brewery about proper maintenance, and, you know, how do you all help with that?
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question, and that's something that we really focus on pretty heavily. So for us, we have a process. So you call a number if there's ever an issue. You call a number. You always get a human being on the other end, and they take the information. They collect that information, and we always tell the locations to give specific information, like what's wrong, what piece of equipment it is. And then that gets routed immediately to a technician and their area. And then the technician goes and, you know, obviously services that. But the more information we have in the beginning, the more prepared we are to kind of meet that service call. The other thing is we always have a service log on every location as well, so we can see repeated problems with different pieces of equipment. So if you know, we have repeated problems on, you know, a skee ball or on, you know, darts or whatever, then we know it's probably time to replace that piece of equipment. But the biggest thing is just for us is people just following the proper channels. We send all of our technicians to actually a training school provided by a distributor. And really it's, I think the biggest thing is just having, you know, that communication. We do what we call preventative maintenance every Wednesday and Thursday, because typically our busiest times are Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we go through a preventive maintenance plan on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but sometimes we miss things. So it's, you know, working with the location and the location, you know, clearly communicating, hey, you know, this piece of equipment is down. They're calling the number that's getting logged in the system, getting routed to a technician. Technicians out on site fixing that, because if the equipment's down, we're not making money, so we want everything to work.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. No, Chris, because you all, you know, started with someone like Jonathan, now you brought everything in-house. talk to me a little bit about how you're handling, all the things that could and maybe do go wrong.
Yeah, so I mean, when we first started kind of bringing in our own machines, that was my lot in life, was to fix a lot of the stuff. What we've done too, I was kind of showing there on the camera, but we also rely on our customers, since we have a lot of players that are, invested in the community, the pinball community. We kind of ask them, hey man, you guys are playing the games on a regular basis. If there's something broken, scan this QR code and file the form for us. Let us know what's going on. And, initially when we owned 8 of the games, it was easy for me to get in there and fix them. And now that we have 54 machines on site, it's not quite a full-time job, but it's definitely more than a couple hours a week situation. So we actually ended up hiring the guy that runs the tournaments for us, our tournament director. We're very fortunate to have found Matt, but we hired him to be our technician, and then he comes in on Wednesdays and Fridays and works on the games, make sure everything's working. And, it's kind of a double whammy on his end. I mean, we're very fortunate that his work schedule works out, that he is a 3-day, 12-hour-day employee and has 4 days off from his job. So coming in here and doing some pinball maintenance for us isn't that big of a deal for him. But it's also that circular situation, whereas the guy running the tournaments, he's also wanting the games to be in good condition, because when a game goes down during a tournament or a league play, our guests have to find a different machine to play and kind of switch bases pretty quickly. So by, maintaining the games, it maintains the value. It maintains the good reputation that we have for having, good playing games. And I mean, there is a lot of maintenance and, just kind of regular upkeep that is going to happen with that, based on cleaning the games, based on, rubbers. I mean, even just wiping down the glass is a big deal. That I'll go to a lot of places that the glass is just so dirty, that, I'm trying to grab a napkin and wipe it down myself. So yeah, I mean, that has been a big struggle, but, finding the right person that can do that. And that sometimes is the benefit of having a company like Jonathan's, to be able to come in and maintain those machines, because, as brewery owners, we can be pretty scrappy and we can be pretty good about.
Well, you're a janitor / pinball machine repairman sometimes.
Toilet cleaner. Yeah, all of those things. So, we wear a lot of hats, and, the pinball maintenance for me ended up being more of an hourly commitment weekly than I was able to provide. And that's why going out and finding a good tech really made that difference. And I've watched other locations here in Michigan move away from their tech, move away from repairing stuff. And they just frankly aren't places that I go to anymore. And I mean, just like we need to clean our lines when we're, serving our beers, and, everybody would think twice about not washing cups. If I said, well, you gotta wash your cups, people are like, well, duh. But then it moves on to lines. Well, do you wash your lines? And then from there, it's, everything inside the business. So it's, wiping down the glass on the pinball machines on a regular basis, dusting the dust off the top of them. All of those things are part of the overall, for my feeling, success of a pinball and arcade portion of your business, just as much as it is your business in general.
Yeah, I would agree. So Tyler, what tips do you have? Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, as Chris mentioned, obviously pinball is a unique offering with, I mean, as much as we'd like to say, and it has gotten a lot better over the years, but it's still a hard silver ball ramming into a bunch of different objects, and you're going to eventually run into issues. And so obviously it's great that obviously Chris and his partner have been able to buy these machines and fix them themselves. One of the other things that most commonly we use with breweries is that's why we typically go with, similar to Jonathan, where we go with an operator approach. Those breweries can stay and maintain their business. They focus on their beer, they focus on their food, and then the operator puts those machines in those locations for free. But then he takes care of all the maintenance and all the cleaning and stuff like that. So it's not anything additional that they need to worry about. They can stick to what they know best and what they do best, and then let the other side partner in to kind of handle and maintain the pinball side of the business.
Makes sense. Jason, what types of unique challenges with regard to maintenance or just operating a Duckpin bowling alley do you see?
Again, knock on wood, not anything too crazy. We bought new, and it's, the pin gets stuck every once in a while. You just got to pull it down, run around and reset it, and it kind of resets itself. So we got kind of a top of the line. The last place that I worked at kind of got an off-brand. I don't know if they're off-brand. It's not Brunswick, so I know it's a little bit less quality. And they were in there all the time fixing it. Owners there on the weekends, spending entire Saturdays fixing one lane, and we haven't had many problems yet. So I think I'm sure the same thing. Stern will tell you the same thing. You get what you pay for. You pay for a quality product, you're going to get a quality output that you're going to pay for it more up front, but the amount of headaches it's going to give you in the end is minimal. And I can't think of, we haven't had, my last place, we would have lanes down for entire weeks at a time. And I don't, knock on wood, outside of the first week we were open, we haven't had a lane down for like any time, really.
Now, Jason, a few minutes ago, you mentioned about people going to the bar to ask for dollars for the machines. How are you handling payment? Do they have the ability to have a card? Are they using, coins? Are they using cash? Talk about the arcade, but also the Duckpin area.
Yeah, Duckpin is just all on their tabs. So the Brunswick has their own point of sale. We just don't use it, and that's fine with them too. So we just add it to their tab, or they pay cash through our brewery point of sale, restaurant point of sale. So that's easy enough. And then the other machines are just cash, coin, or card. And the only one that's card is Duckpin or Buck Hunt. The other two are cash. So at least we give parents an out for their kids to say, I don't have any money left. And so, but we do run through a lot of singles for change. I don't know the bank today, but that's pretty easy.
So, Jason, I do need to ask on this one, because you said you added it to people's tabs, and I'm curious, do you find that people tip on the overall total?
Yep, 100%.
That seems like a win. Chris, what are you seeing? How are you taking payment?
Cash is king, baby. Obviously we're all paying 3% on a credit card swipe every time. Jonathan kind of alluded to the credit card swipe process, but for us, those can be $200+ per machine just to add that. I've talked to a lot of other operators that say that you do end up getting quite a bit more, that they saw revenue increases when they swapped to a credit card situation. But for us, it's always been kind of a cash option. So we do have an ATM, and if people forget cash, they can pay me $3 to pull that out too.
I like it. So
I kind of like that.
Oh, go ahead,
I kind of like that pinball is coin only. I feel like that's just classic pinball right there, and you kind of get that nostalgia every time you play. If you have to put your quarters into play.
We've actually had that feedback from customers, because we talked about going to a card. And it's funny, my best friend's 4-year-old, I think, likes putting the money in the game more than he likes playing it. So, there's that too.
I'd rather give my kid a handful of quarters so I know how many he has versus giving him a credit card where he can just swipe it or scan it whenever he wants.
And I think that a lot of parents would agree with you, Andrew.
Yeah.
So, Tyler and Jonathan, what are some industry trends you're seeing with regard to just payment for these things?
So ours is basically done one of three ways. The old traditional way of quarters. All machines will come with the quarter adapter still on there. So you can go with quarters. A lot of operators tend to typically have either change machines or an ATM machine. And then you could there's dollar bill acceptors as well. And then we're just recently starting to get into the credit card.
Tyler,
it comes with.
Might be frozen. There we go.
Got me? Okay, perfect. So yeah, like I was mentioning though, so the quarter door comes on the machines still today. There are dollar bill acceptors that are an easy switch in, and we've just recently started getting into credit card readers as well. And typically the only places we use those there are some breweries that we've encountered that are cashless businesses. So it was very hard for people to come and play pinball when they weren't expecting to use any cash. So we just started diving into those, but there's 3 basic payment options that typically are available. The coins and the cash are pretty much widely considered still the most common methods today.
Awesome. And Jonathan?
So I'm going to be a little different. We actually have moved away from quarters. So all of our games either have a bill acceptor, or they have a credit card reader, or they have a game card reader. So all of our games, we can certainly do quarters, but what we've seen moving over to credit card and to card reader systems is gameplay has gone up by 20 to 30%. And to your question, Andrew, with game cards, you actually go to a kiosk, the parents can load the money right onto a player card, hand it to their child, and their child can walk around and just tap it on the game and play whatever game they want. Also, the reader, you can use a credit card on it as well for that impulse play. If you're hanging out, talking to your friends, and you're like, hey, let's go play some pinball. They don't want to have to worry about going up to the kiosk. They can just pull out their credit card, and then they can just start playing right there. You don't have to worry about the coin mechs jamming, putting quarters onto the coin mechs. So it reduces your service calls as well. And we can even pay our locations with cash with their side of the revenue. So we do have some locations that say, hey, I'd rather be paid cash versus ACH or check. Then we can pay them with cash right there on location at time of collection. We're in the process right now of building a player rewards program. So locations that have a card reader system, and they register their card, we actually can collect their player's information, and then you can actually solicit to the player to encourage them to come back on location, whether it's their birthday, or if you're having a special or something like that, you can encourage the player to come back on location or push credits out to their profile as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. It's been fascinating hearing how you all have made, these fun things like arcade games, pinball, duckpin bowling work and be successful in your businesses, and all the advice you all have given. I want to wind down with one final question. And that question is, we'll start with you, Tyler. Could you kick things off? For anyone looking to implement some of the forms of entertainment we've talked today, what's one tip you would give them and something they should be thinking about right now?
My tip would just be to ask around, kind of ask what your customers are looking for. Some of Jonathan would have a wide portfolio of things that he could offer your location. Want to just kind of do a little bit of research and figure out maybe what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go. And obviously I'm always available to talk with people as well if pinball was a fit for them. But yeah, just kind of feel out your options, look into, the pros and the cons of everything, and decide for yourself on what you think would help benefit your business and help earn you guys some more revenue.
And Tyler, if anyone's interested in contacting you, how can they do so? And what is your favorite pinball machine?
Well, my favorite pinball machine is always the most recent one. So it is Jaws. And for contacting me, just my name, TYLOR.Carson, CARSON at sternpinball.com.
Easy enough. Thanks for being here, Tyler. Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I would say find your areas, Jonathan. And that's what we do. We do the revenue split. They provide everything. They service it. And then find out what your customers are looking for. If they're looking for, then you can kind of look into just do exactly what Chris did, man. It's super smart. And if you want to talk Duckpin, I'm happy to talk about it. But again, it's a pretty big capital investment there, and it's working out great for us, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But you're a smaller brewery, get a claw machine, get 1 or 2 machines in there. We're splitting half and half, and we're making $200 a week, per machine that we have, not per machine, but it's probably $300 a week total between the 3. And it's that taking up no space, and that's giving customers something to do. So I would reach out to your Jonathan, your local vendor that will do that for you, and see what they have to offer. And if it sucks, they'll just come take it out. It's a win-win.
Good stuff, Jason. Really appreciate you reaching out and being here. And I love how your Jonathan has become an expression today, but now we've got our Jonathan to share his final words.
I would say the biggest thing in our industry is stay fluid and work together. We're constantly looking at data, constantly seeing what's working, constantly looking at what's working differently in different location types, and working with the location owner and educating them on the games, them educating us on what the patrons are asking for. Working with their whoever's working behind the bar is almost more critical than actually working with the owner, because they're the ones on site having the interaction with the customers, listening to the complaints or listening to the things that they want. But really just staying fluid. Like with us, when we go set a location, you're not stuck with that equipment. So if something isn't working, maybe we need to go find a Jaws pinball. We're constantly fluid. I think that's the biggest thing, and just working together because it's a relationship.
Oh, very true. Thanks, Jonathan, for being here. Anyone interested in reaching out to you, how can they do so?
You can contact me directly. My phone number is 910-496-6048, or they can email me. My email is jonathan@southlandentertainment.com, or they can go directly to our webpage, and that will get routed over to our sales department, and you can just put in there Jonathan, and I'm happy to reach out to you. Our territory is primarily in the Southeast. We do have a strong presence outside the Chicago area and Illinois as well. And happy to talk to you guys more about amusements.
And your favorite game, Jonathan?
My favorite game is actually Duckpin bowling. I think it's super cool.
There we go.
It's something we don't do, but it is super cool. People now are very they want to be social, they want to hang out. You don't have to worry about the competition. You just stay drinking beer, and you're just throwing your ball, and you're aiming at the short squatty pen, and it's easy to hit, and it's loads of fun.
I love it. And Jason, I don't want you to feel left out. You talked about Buck Hunter quite a bit during today's call, so I figured that was your favorite. Am I right, or do you have another?
You are. Yeah. If I could pick one game to play, I'm playing Buck Hunter for sure.
Love it. Cool. Now, Chris, take us home. What's your tip for everyone?
Well, understand that, something that you don't have any passion about and don't understand is probably not going to go great for you. So I would say don't do it just to do it. I would say, like these guys have said, go out and check out another place. Even if they only have one pinball, go there, look at it. If pinball's for you, then awesome. I started with my focus being arcade, and the pinball was kind of an additional add-on. And then now my vision's totally changed. Now I'm way more into pinball than I am arcade, and probably have ever been into arcade. I'm more into pinball. There's good opportunities to grow community with that. It's just not going to happen overnight just because you have a pinball machine. And I've been to a lot of places that kind of look at these opportunities as additional extras and don't really put a lot of effort and energy into it. So I get the feeling, I don't know Jason or anybody else on this call, but I get the feeling that, Jason's business puts a lot of emphasis, time, and energy into making the Duckpin thing work for them. And, just like for us, we put a lot of time and energy into making it work for us too. I will say that it gives a good opportunity to keep customers busy with stuff going on, whether that be our beer drinking people's children, or, like you mentioned, getting the adults here to drink a few extra beers and play pinball. So that's gone really well for us. And although, we have put the money into our own games, working with a Jonathan style person in your area to find out, does it work for you? There's very little risk in working with an operator. So I will say that. And then also keep in mind that everything's negotiable. So I'm sure, Jonathan, sorry to bust the bubble there, but you know, he's going to have a rate that he throws out in the beginning, and those things are always negotiable. Now his company could say, no, we're not doing that. I just know that there's a lot of businesses, you know, maybe if you want to do one pinball, they'll bring it in.
Slightly frozen for a second, I believe.
Okay. Can you hear me though?
Finish that last statement off if you could.
So, you know, work with the operator to make something work for you. You know, there is split revenue opportunities. Some operators, if you only have one game, may want to take 100%. There is a lot of time and energy that goes into fixing games, even just into counting the revenue that comes out of the game. So there is more work to it than just nothing, but work with your operator to figure out if it works for you. And if it doesn't, and you're working with an operator, they will come pick the machine back up. They may not be very happy about it, but they will come pick it up and get it back out of your way. So, but like Jonathan did say, you know, partnerships and working with other people is important. We all do that with a food vendor. We do that with our ingredient supplier. And Andrew, you're a partner just as much as any of these other people to help facilitate these type of conversations. So we're already working with partners. Just make sure that you open up that new possibility with an operator in your area.
I appreciate all that, Chris. Now, what is your favorite pinball machine?
Well, you know, because Tyler's on the call, I'm just going to say it's my Jersey Jack Godfather, you know. But, you know, we do have all of the newest machines, and we do, you know, do our best to kind of keep everything rolling. So I do have the Jaws machine. That's right here. And then my whole stern row here. But then I also have my nice Jersey Jack row here. You know, a little bit different look, but for Pinball League, I like playing anything that everybody else doesn't know how to play, because then I have the one up. And when it comes to making revenue, my favorite machine is the claw machine, because it makes a ton of money.
Do any of you have like branded merchandise in the claw machine, like some one well, like basketball or plush? Jason, do you have anything like that?
No, we looked at plush, making plush for that, and it was just too expensive for what we're going to get out of it.
You just got to charge $10 to get the claw to go grab the wandering monster and pull it back up. You know, it's like a piece of merchandise, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We thought about doing that with T-shirts and stuff like that. There's a video on our Facebook where we grabbed a 4-pack out of the claw machine, but it was empty. Don't tell anyone.
Chris, I someday hope to visit your brewery and come back to Kalamazoo again. Jason, sounds amazing to come play Duckpin at your spot in Wandering Monsters. Tyler and Jonathan, I look forward to sharing beers with you both eventually. And everybody, have a great day. Really appreciate you all being here. See you soon.
Thank
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.